Hello, good morning to all of you and welcome to this new class. I hope you remember what we learned yesterday. We learned about government has made a lot of laws in order to protect the affected people or in order to protect the people of different category from facing injustice and so on. But we found the laws are not implemented, or the respected state governments are not taking initiative, or the police or other officers who are supposed to implement the law, they are not taking much initiative. Therefore, a number of children, thousands of children or millions of children are below 14 years and they are, instead of going to school, they are going and working. So that is a real concerning situation in our country, that these young children who are supposed to get education and become the future assets of the country, they are deprived of this education and made to work as slaves. So let us see another example in our country that happened due to lack of implementation of law. That is called Bhopal gas tragedy. You know where is Bhopal? You know, in Madhya Pradesh. So there was a tragedy called gas leaking. Gas was leaked there and thousands of people died. Let's see about it. You can take page number 124. The world's worst industrial tragedy took place in Bhopal 24 years ago. So Union Carbide, an American company, had a factory in the city in which it produced pesticides. At midnight on 2nd December 1984, methyl isocyanide, a highly poisonous gas, started leaking from this UC plant. So it all happened from a factory, an American factory started working in Bhopal, and the name of the company is Union Carbide. And what was this company? They were producing pesticides for the farmers, poisonous pesticides. And what happened was, at midnight, at 2 on 2nd December 1984, so a poisonous gas called methyl isocyanide, that highly poisonous gas, it began to leak out. There was some leakage and this gas, poisonous gas, began to come out from the factory. Then remembers of Asia Sultan, a survivor. So a person who survived from this gas leakage, she is telling, at about 12:30 a.m. I woke to the sound of my baby coughing badly. So she heard her child was coughing very badly at midnight 12:30. In the half light I saw that the room was filled with a white cloud. I heard people shouting, "Run, run." Then I started coughing, with each breath seeming as if I was breathing in fire. My eyes were burning. So this gas was spreading to all the nearby places, and the people who were staying nearby, they were all affected. And this lady herself says a child started coughing and she started coughing and her eyes were burning and she was feeling that she was breathing out fire. So the whole body was burning, we can say. That is the example of the women who experienced that terrific tragedy. So within 3 days, more than 8,000 people were dead and hundreds of thousands were maimed. So because of this gas leakage, what happened? Within 3 days, 8,000 people died. 8,000 people died. You can see in the picture that they are having mass cremation. All the dead people are put together and they are having cremation. So within just 3 days that gas spread and breathing that poisonous gas, 8,000 people died in Bhopal and hundreds of thousands were maimed. So many thousand people were maimed. Maimed means becoming handicapped. Maybe their eyes became blind or their ears stopped hearing or their breathing system failed, some kind of organs failed, and they became handicapped or maimed. Then most of those exposed to the poisonous gas came from the poor working class families, of which nearly 50,000 people are today too sick to work. So most of these people who were affected by this gas leak, they were either the workers who were working in that factory or people who are staying nearby, the poor farmers and so on. So it is they who are affected, and even today you can say around 50,000 people are affected by that. After so many years have passed, and even now because of breathing that poisonous gas on those days, the people are still sick. They are unable to do any work. They are physically seriously sick. And among those who survived, many developed severe respiratory disorders, eye problems, and other disorders. So, people who did not die, people who survived, but they are not fully healthy. What happened to them? Some of them became getting disorders, or some of them got problem in their respiratory system, breathing system were affected, or some of their eyes were affected, they lost their eyesight and so on. So a lot of people even now suffering from eye sicknesses or breathing problems and so on. Then children develop peculiar abnormalities like the girl in the photo and so on. So many children develop so many problems, abnormalities. Maybe their legs were crippled, they are not able to walk, or their hands were crippled and they cannot do the work, or their face shape change and so on. Lot of abnormalities, the physical abnormalities are there. They became really handicapped. So it was such a heavy poisonous gas, and all those who breathed were affected. Even after many years, the people are still sick. And the disaster was not an accident. UC had deliberately ignored the essential safety measures in order to cut costs. And much before the Bhopal disaster, there had been incidents of gas leak killing a worker and injuring several. So, we said in the last class, the government has made a law for those who are running factory or company. There should be safety measures, there should be alarm, there should be fire exit, emergency exit and so on. So this company did not follow all these rules. Because if you go and make all these things, then company has to spend a lot of money, then their profit will be less. So in order to increase their profit, they ignored all these safety measures, and at the end the gas leaked out and the people died. And earlier also there was an incident, gas was leaking, and that day one person was dead. One worker was dead and several people were injured. So that was a warning for this company, and the company could have checked all their systems, everything, but they did not bother, because it is Indian, it is a foreign company and all the workers are from India. It is they who are suffering. Therefore they did not bother to take care of the lives of the poor people, and they continue to die, continue to suffer. And we can see in that picture people are protesting against this company for not following the norms and the rules of the government. Then despite the overwhelming evidence pointing to UC as responsible for the disaster, it refused to accept the responsibility. So this company, they were very cunning. It was very evident that it was their lack of care. It was their mistake, lack of responsibility, that this gas leaked out and so many people died. But company said, no, it is not our mistake. They refused to accept the mistake. And in the ensuing legal battle, the government represented the victims in a civil case against UC. It filed a 3 billion compensation case in 1985, but accepted a lowly 470 million in 1989. So the government filed a case against this company for representing all these poor people, and they said we should get compensation $3 billion. But at the end, they received only 470 million. So, not even one third of what they demanded they got. So, government did not think much about the poor people. They were just satisfied with the little money that they got. So survivors appealed against the settlement, but the Supreme Court ruled that the settlement amount would stand. So the people complained in the Supreme Court, but even the Supreme Court did not stand for the people. They said that amount that is given, that is final, no more money will be given. So we find that even the government or even the Supreme Court who could have demanded for more money, they failed to stand for that. Maybe because of political pressure, or maybe because of some bribe. The company must have given some bribe to the government. So government received that money and demanded or stood for the company and abandoned the people and so on. So all kinds of corruptions are there even in the government level. Because of that, the poor people continue to suffer. Then UC stopped its operations but left behind tons of toxic chemicals. So that company was closed and they went back, they did not function anymore. But a lot of chemicals were left behind, toxic chemicals, poisonous chemicals were left behind in that company. And these have seeped into the ground, contaminating the water. So that poison, it has seeped into the soil. What was left behind, so all enter into the soil, and slowly it will enter into the groundwater, and the water will get contaminated, will get polluted. Dow Chemical, the company who now owns the plant, refuses to take responsibility for cleaning up. So again, the people demanded that company should come and clean up all these poisonous gases and make the environment clean. But the owner of the company called Dow Chemical, he refused. He said, no, we will not do anything. So they simply escaped. That is the lack of power of the government. The government should have taken action against the foreign level, against the country, against that company and so on. But as I said, maybe government might have received some kind of bribe from this company, therefore the government did not punish them, did not take action against them. Then 24 years later, people are still fighting for justice and for safe drinking water, for healthcare facilities and jobs for the people poisoned by UC. And they also demand that Anderson, the UC chairman who faces criminal charges, be prosecuted. So the people, even after so many years after this incident, the people are still demanding for justice. Those people who are affected, those people who died, and those people who are sick still, they demand compensation, they demand money for treatment and so on. But it is still remaining. They have not received much help. And people said that chairman of that company, UC, his name was Anderson, and he should be punished, he should be prosecuted because of his carelessness, so many people died, so many people are affected and so on. But it is still remaining, that person still goes free because the government is not taking action against him and so on. So these are the problems that the country facing. The laws are there, but people who are supposed to implement that law, supposed to put into practice that law, they are not doing it. They are just letting free, making the law mockery and making the poor people continue to suffer and so on. So that is the problem in our country, and one of the major accidents that took place, and the people suffered because the government officers did not check whether these companies were following the safety norms or not. Now let's come to another topic. What is a worker's worth? He said most of the laws are made to protect the workers, the poor and so on. Let's see the worker's life, how worth it is, what is the value of his life. So if we are to understand the events leading to Bhopal disaster, We have to ask, why did Union Carbide set up its plant in India? So, this Union Carbide is an American company, and we may ask, why did they come to India and set up their factory in India? What is the reason? What is the purpose? So one reason why foreign companies come to India is for cheap labor. So the labor, though government has fixed the minimum labor charge, it is very low comparing to other countries. In other countries, the minimum wage is very high, but in India it is very low. Therefore, foreign companies want to come and set up their factory in India so that they can make the Indians to work there and pay very less wages. That is one of the purpose. Then wages that the companies pay to workers, say in the USA, are far higher than what they have to pay to workers in poorer countries like India. So, if the worker in America gets very high amount comparing to the worker in India, poor countries like India and other poor countries, the wage is very low. For lower pay, companies can get longer hours of work. So people in India or workers in India, they work for long hours and their pay is very less. And additional expenses such as for housing facilities for workers are also fewer. And thus companies can save costs and earn higher profit. So in America or other developed countries, the workers have got more rights. They should get the housing facility, they should get the house for stay or the quarters they should get insurance for their health, insurance against accidents and so on. But in India all these things are not there. Government does not make that kind of rules strict. Therefore, these companies can save a lot of money. No need to spend much money for protecting these workers. No need to give them quarters. No need to give them insurance and so on. That money also will go as a profit for the factory owner. Then cost cutting can also be done by other more dangerous means. So they try to reduce the expense, which are very dangerous. In the case of UC so they did not bother to check when there was a gas leak early because they did not bother. They did not want to spend much money on that. So as a result, more gas was leaking out and thousands of people died. And lower working conditions including lower safety measures are used as ways of cutting costs. So in order to cut the cost or reduce the cost, what do? They remove the safety devices, they do not upgrade the machines or the working conditions and so on. So they try to get more profit. In the UC plant, every safety device was malfunctioning or was in short supply. So most of the devices or engines in that factory, it was not functioning properly, it was malfunctioning. But the owners of the company did not bother whether it is malfunctioning or not. They knew they are safe, they have nothing to worry. So who will be affected? The poor people will be affected, the poor workers will be affected. So they were not ready to spend extra money and repair their machines and their system in order to save the poor workers. So they were looking at, if I don't do this work, I can save some more money. That was their target, that was their aim. So between 1980 and 84, the workers' crew for the MIG plant was cut in half from 12 to 6 workers. So they reduced the workers from 80 to 84. Work crew for the MIG plant was cut from half, from 12 to 6 workers. Earlier there were 12 workers and that was reduced to 6 workers. And the period of safety training for workers was brought down from 6 months to 15 days. So every worker was supposed to get training, how to work safely. In case there is a danger, how to escape and so on. Suppose you have 6 months of training, but that training days was brought to just 15 days, just half a month. So many days of training they are supposed to get, that training period was reduced so that the company can save more money and make the people to work start working. So all these companies did a lot of mistakes and the government did not take any action against them. And the post of night shift worker for the MIG plant was abolished. So the post of night shift worker. So there were people who were working even night, and that was abolition. So read the following comparison between UC safety system in Bhopal and other plants in USA. So now let us see, let us compare two companies. One company in India, or American company UC in India, that was met with accident, the Union Carbide, and another American company that is working in America. So both owners are Americans. One is established in India, another one is established in America. Let us see what are the conditions, the differences in the working conditions in place. Whereas the UC plant in Bhopal relied on manual gauges and the human senses to detect gas leaks. And at the West Virginia plant, emergency evacuation plans were in place but non-existent in Bhopal. So, how you see, lot of facilities are provided in Virginia, in America, but that same country is having another company in India, and all those facilities are not provided in India. So, they are supposed to follow that same conditions in India also, but they did not bother. They were simply just negligent. They did not care for the workers' life, and so that's why the accident took place, and they were not even willing to pay the compensation. They were really making the people suffer and die, did not care about the life and the health of the workers. So why are these such sharp differences in safety standards across countries? And even after the disaster happened, why was the compensation to the victims so low? So even they were paying the compensation very low. 3 billion were asked and only just few millions were allowed. And the government did not go for pursuing the case. So all that shows the worker's life is considered as of low worth. It is the value of worker's life is not very high in India. One part of the answer lies in what is perceived as the worth of an Indian worker. One worker can easily replace another. Since there is so much unemployment, there are many workers who are willing to work in safe conditions in return for a wage. Making use of the workers' vulnerability, employers ignore safety in workplaces. Thus, even so many years after the Bhopal tragedy, there are regular reports of accidents in construction sites, mines or factories due to the callous attitude of the employees. So, there are so many people in India working in dangerous situations. The children working as in the factories or in the coal mines or as domestic workers, and so there are all the conditions are not very safe. They are all suffering or affected by these bad situations, and making the workers' life a very vulnerable to accidents, to sicknesses, and even to death. It is very dangerous. So that Bhopal tragedy, it should help us to learn from that mistakes, and we should never make that mistake again possible. We have to avoid, we have to take proper care in the future so that we don't make such kind of mistakes again, and we are made to work in the safe conditions. We are made to work in the good conditions. That is what we are expected to do. So the government has to take proper care, proper measure in order to avoid such kind of bad problems. Then let us see how to do the enforcement of the laws. Enforcement. Enforcement of laws. As the lawmaker and enforcer, the government is supposed to ensure that safety laws are implemented. It is also the duty of the government to ensure that the right to life guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution is not violated. What was the government doing when there were such a blatant violations of safety standards in the UC plan? So it is government has made the law, but government has not enforced it. Otherwise, those who made the mistake, they should have been punished. So they escaped punishment and no prosecution was done. That shows government failed to take action against those people who were responsible for this gas leak accident in Bhopal. So first, the safety laws were lax in India. Second, even these weak safety laws were not enforced. So first of all, the laws are very lax. Lax means not strict in India. And even that little laws that are there, it is not properly implemented. The police or other officers, they are not bothering much, they are not caring much in order to make sure these laws are properly followed. Then government officials refused to recognize the plan as hazardous and allowed it to come up in a population locality. So the law says the plant that are or the factory that are hazardous, very dangerous for human life, it should not be set up in a populous place where the people are more. So government office is supposed to examine this one and see this is a very dangerous factory, therefore it should not be set up here. So government officers did not do that. They just gave them permission, okay, you start. So that way it was started. So when some municipal officials in Bhopal objected that the installation of an MIC production unit in 1978 was a safety violation, the position of the government was that the state needs the continued investment of the Bhopal plant which provides jobs. So the local officers, they reported to the government that this factory should not be started here, they are violating the safety norms. Then government simply said, we need more foreign investment, let them come, let them start, we need more foreign investment to provide job for the people. That is what the just government was carrying. So government simply made the law very loose in order to help that foreign company so that they will start their company here and more people will get jobs. That was only their concern of this government. Then it was unthinkable, according to them, to ask UC to shift to a cleaner technology or safer procedures. So it was an American company and America was very powerful. Therefore Indians felt that it is not, we cannot command America or we cannot control America. They will start where they want. We cannot tell them to change the place and so. So the government was frightened, we can say. They were not willing to control or follow the law of the country. The government inspectors continued to approve the procedures in the plan, even when repeated incidents of leaks from the plan made it obvious to everybody that things were seriously wrong. And this, as you know, is contrary to what the role of the law-making and enforcement agency should be. Instead of protecting the interests of the people, their safety was being disregarded both by the government and by private companies. So we see, if the government were to be strict in implementing those laws, then the people in India would not have died. So many would not have become maimed. So many would not have become sick and so. So the government failed in its duty and responsibility even to implement or to take action against those people. The government totally failed. And this is obviously not at all desirable. With more industries being set up both by local and foreign business in India, there is a great need for stronger laws protecting workers. rights and better enforcement of these laws. So governments just should not think anyhow, let them come and make the investment in India or start their companies in India so that more Indians will get job. That should not be just the intention of the government. But government has to make sure that these companies are following the safety norms and nobody should get accident, nobody should get sick, nobody should die and so on. So it is a duty and responsibility of the government to make sure that these companies are following the laws and everybody is safe. The workers, their life is safe. That is the responsibility of the government to make sure. So we will realize, we can also see that then the margin, right margin, some instances are given, a picture is given. Recently, a large travel agency was asked to pay rupees 8 lakh as compensation to a group of tourists, and their foreign trip was poorly managed and they missed Disneyland and shopping in Paris. Why did the victims of Bhopal gas tragedy then get so little for a lifetime of misery and pain? So recently, one group of people were traveling in a foreign trip. So the agency that was arranged the trip, they had made that we will go to such and such places, but they arranged very poorly. The time was not managed properly. Therefore, they could not go to visit two places. That is, the shopping in Paris they could not do, and they could not visit the Disneyland. So they complained against this agency and 8 lakh rupees compensation was given to them. So such a simple mistake, they were asked to pay 8 lakh rupees. But here thousands of people died and more than 50,000 people were affected in their life. They became maimed, handicapped and so, and still the compensation was such a small amount. So we see a lot of injustice there, injustice done to these poor people, and the government just keeping quiet. So that is the injustice that is going on in our country, in our society, and many more companies are coming, and if we are not careful, if we are not aware, then same tragedy can take place again and our life will be in danger. So we need to be aware about our rights and we need to fight for our rights. Then only we can really experience the rights that are guaranteed in our constitution into its fullness, and we can live as free citizens of our country. So thank you for listening. We'll continue again in the next class and we will learn more about this kind of social injustice, the laws and so on. So bye. Meet you next.